I don't even know what to say.
Oh, it's Sunday.
Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday.
Happy Father's Day to all the brothers out there who are being fathers and all that good stuff. Wow, welcome back to what is this? This our ninth, 10th?
Yeah, this is probably the ninth.
Ninth
It's
week?
our fourth powder human, but
Yep. And I think it's either our ninth or our 10th
or for our
consecutive
10th
week.
if you count
Last week. Yep.
week.
Then it is. Yay. Then this is kind of like an anniversary then. Like we've made it 10 Sundays in these conversations. We started with the thesis of secular community, which I think was just a beautiful inauguration into this whole idea. And now we're in this how to human conversation. And honestly, this was just an experiment. I wasn't really sure if this was something that people were going to be able to find value in at this level. But I am super duper excited that people do find value in this. Hello, Stephanie. How are ya? Welcome in. And so, yeah, super duper excited. So thank you all for joining us for this 10th week of Sunday sessions. Of course, as you're coming in, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the alert notification bell so you can get, notified. Consider joining our community. Consider volunteering, and check out our merch. Also, consider financially supporting the work, which just spend a few times in these sessions and you'll become really acclimated with the work that we're trying to do. All right, babe, I'm gonna hand it over to you for some announcements.
All right. Yeah, if you signed up to be a volunteer, thank you all for those who responded so far. Please check your spam folder for emails that we have been sending. Also, to those who have been rocking with us in Discord, we are getting the hang of it. Thank you.
Yay.
We had some people who offered to volunteer on some other things that we have going on as well. So thank you for that. We do have a volunteer guide that's right in Discord. Also, check the links out that are already in the chat.
Wow.
So that will be great. And okay, make sure we have a birthday up.
Oh, you saw? Oh, oh yeah.
Yeah, if you haven't already, check out last week's Sunday session. We also dropped a new video on our thoughts on barriers in building secular community. So if you haven't checked that out, it's on this page. It should be the most recent video.
It's actually the first video I think I've dropped on a Saturday because I don't normally do videos on a Saturday. But yeah. So definitely check that one out.
And as Darante mentioned, he is booked and busy today. So
yeah,
we went to Shoney's yesterday.
We did.
It was pretty good. But check out the Atheist Experience later today, and then Bad Science Sundays Father's Day edition this evening. Also, some upcoming projects that we are so excited about that's actually happened. We have a date set up for the launch of the Ex-Pastor Call-In Show with Kyle Butler and Wes leading the production team. So tune in on July 7th.
Yep.
Right,
and now I remember what the note was that I wanted to add in. Listen, as we're preparing for that show, we're going to need your support. This is another experiment that Kyle and I got together and kind of talked about. We're going to have Wes leading the production team. Thank you. Yes. And I want you to think about it in this way, because again, this one, unlike other shows, it's not necessarily meant to be a debate show. Some of that stuff may happen, but that's really not the point of this. This is not the show where you call in and try to convince us or we try to convince you. This is the show for that other audience who has not had a place to plug into. These are for the people who've always had questions that they wanted to ask pastors, whether they are pre-deconstruction or post-deconstruction. This will be a safe place for them to ask us any of those questions. Kyle is also an ex-pastor, and we're going to answer. But then also it's a place for people who are deconstructing, for people who are deconverting, for people who are likely dealing with religious trauma or any other type of trauma. This is our opportunity to platform the value of secular advice and things of that nature. So I'm really urging and encouraging everyone who can to plan on calling in or to plan on participating. in that show. And if you know anybody who can benefit from stuff like that, yes, that's what I'm talking about. And if you know that there's some people who can, all that, so yeah, and that's really what it's for. If you know there's some people who can benefit from that type of stuff, make sure you point them towards that show so we can make sure that it is a success. Okay, I'll stop. I'll give it back to you.
Absolutely. And on June 27th, check us out with group therapy. We are so excited. We got some people rejoining us, Tom and Volsey, and we have the lovely Maya tuning in and joining us for the first time. It's called Trapped in the Closet. You already know.
Yes.
It's going to be good. So tune in to that.
And just also, I hate to interject again, but also we'll be doing the group therapies monthly. And I actually have one that we'll be pulling Mr. Difficult in. Oh, wow. Happy early birthday. Yeah. That we'll actually be pulling Mr. Difficult in. Speaking of the difficult, pulling him in, and that'll be the one that we're doing for those who are on the fringes of the faith. And that is going to be an exhilarating conversation. I don't have it plotted on the calendar yet, but we're going to be excited about that.
I'm looking forward to that as well.
And I'll pick it up from here because I think this next one is on me. And this is something that I've done on one of my videos. I don't know if we've done here, but I wanted you to see how our community is growing. And so I'm going to share my screen. Yoink. So you can see what we're looking like. Yay. Let me see here. Yep, that did perfectly. Everywhere you see one of these little dots, let me come over here. Yeah. Everywhere you see one of these little dots is where we have people who are in support of what we're doing on this channel, and specifically what we're trying to do with community. And I wanted to share this with you all. I know I shared some things with our patrons and members this week, and this was actually something that I didn't get to in that presentation. But this is literally right now we are global. Like that's absolutely amazing. We're growing and it's exciting. And I don't think it's necessarily because we're doing anything special. I think it's because that's how big the need is. I think that's how valuable community is, and people are looking at it. Yep, yeah. Orlando, there it is. Oh yeah, I went on it for real. But I definitely wanted to show that to you all. Let me see here. Okay. Oh, and then our broader community announcements. Of course, we just got out of NERCH, so our Sundays are really busy. But NERCH, that's where Brady, Albert, and Jay Witt are currently. They're in a series where they're breaking down the book of Romans from a deconverted and deconstructed worldview. And I'm telling you, those conversations are fascinating. Yeah. And they take place every Sunday now?
It may be.
I'm not sure if it's every Sunday or every other Sunday, but it's at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And then, of course, we do our Sunday sessions. I guess I don't really need to mention those here. Let's Talk on Skeptic Haven every Sunday at 7 p.m. And then Bad Science Sundays at 8:30 p.m. every Sunday, which I'll be on tonight for their Father's Day edition.
And you were on Skeptic Haven yesterday?
Was that Skeptic? Yeah, I was. I was on their Women Atheist Unload. Thank you for reminding me about that. We had a Juneteenth conversation. Did we say something about Juneteenth yet? I know it was in the notes.
Yeah, it was in the notes.
Oh no, we just skipped over it. But yeah, for those of you who are interested in Juneteenth and want to commemorate Juneteenth, please be sure to check out some of the festivities that may be available in your area. Yeah. All right. So, and of course, the Stacy's Mom podcast, it's not on Sundays, but it's on Mondays, and that's another great one to check out as well. Okay, so before we jump into today's conversation, I do want to give a little time to discuss moving forward how we can attract, screen, and stage others in these conversations, or platform others might be a better way to say that. I don't think I need this anymore. Well, I will in a few minutes, but and really just for the edification of community. Doing this would allow us to promote a diversity of ideas while providing tangible experience for people who are wanting to build their portfolio, if you will, to include community communication, facilitation, information, or otherwise motivation. I think the more that we use this platform as a safe place for people to cultivate and develop their own leadership and communication skills, the easier it will be for people to take that leap into intentional community building in their localities and on their own varying platforms. I personally won't be satisfied until we have a vast network of diverse communities across the globe, so that anytime someone calls me and says, I feel like I'm out here by myself, and I would love to be able to have somewhere to direct them. And the biggest challenge with this will be identifying and timelining guest interest in alignment with our very thematic approach, if you haven't noticed so far. For example, we're currently in our How to Human series. And then in 2 weeks, we'll be starting Please Don't Stop the Music, where we'll be exploring ways to harmonize our lives in the midst of chaos. And after that, we'll be launching into a fascinating conversation called Change My Mind, where we'll be talking about talking through ideas like neuroplasticity, having a growth mindset, and the tangible factors in our lives that often lead to mind change. What's up, Tyrone? Glad to see you in the building. You know, the virtual building.
Father's Day.
Yeah. Happy Father's Day. Yeah. And so I'm thinking perhaps we can publish our calendar of upcoming conversations for maybe up to 3 to 6 months out, and designate which days are open for guests and allow the members of the community to nominate themselves or maybe even others for consideration in those conversations. And we'd likely be leaning into you all as a community to help us come up with a screening or qualifying process so that we can make sure that we don't platform anything that unintentionally violates our values or causes harm to others. And to make sure that information being shared on the platform is either sound or duly noted as subjective or speculative.
That's important.
That is very important, right? Like, and I am all for subjective conversations. I am all for speculative conversations. To me, everything does not have to be grounded in established truth, because that's how we wonder. That's how we explore. But when we are having those type of conversations, we do need to. Oh, I love it, man. Ooh, yes. And outreach is a very big passion of mine. God dang it. But we definitely want to have speculative and subjective conversations too. We just want to make note that that's what they are, that they are speculative and subjective. And other than that, we want to make sure that they're sound. And so I just want to kind of brainstorm a little bit before we jump in this conversation, or share some things with you that I was kind of thinking, and I literally interjected these into my notes this morning, just to platform this conversation. Because there's 3 different ways that people will be able to participate in the Sunday sessions. We can have guest participants, guest hosts, and guest speakers. Guest participants will be brought on to talk about one or more topic in a session. So today we'll run through several topics in this When People Value People session. And so there may be people who say, oh, this is a topic that I love to speak on, but I don't want to be on the show the whole time. And so we want to make room for those people too. Some of you may say, "Ooh, this part it speaks to me. I want to come on for 15 or so minutes and share a little bit, or just engage the conversation." But then we'll also have guest hosts, and these are people who will help drive the conversation, which they'll come on with us or with one of us, and help drive that conversation. But then also guest speakers, which is a whole nother other level. And that's bringing people in where it's just like, we're not even going to be on here. We'll come on and say, hey, we got a guest speaker today, and we're going to get out the way. And which I think these things will be good, because as I've stressed, and I probably stress it too much, but forgive me, I don't want this to be understated. I don't want to build a personality cult. That's not what we're trying to do. And if anything, especially, and it's kind of appropriate for this conversation about people valuing people, truly valuing people is finding ways to build relationships where we're not dependent on hierarchical structures in our relationships to each other. All of us have something of value to share, and I want to make sure that we're being intentional about platforming that value. I think last night we had a conversation. I don't know, personality cult, last night we had a conversation, and I may have been a little tipsy, but I was sharing some things that, like, I realized, like, everybody's smart and everybody's stupid, because smart and stupid are on spectrums. I know people who are stupid in probably things that are important, but then you can find other places in their lives that they're absolutely brilliant in. And those things may just not be important to their lives. But I think sometimes with words like smart and stupid and stuff like that, we think that I don't know anybody who's smart in everything. And I don't know anybody who's stupid in everything. And so the truth of the matter is we're all smart and we're all stupid, which means we all have something to share and we all have something to learn.
Way to bring it back.
Way to bring it back. Wasn't that nice? Wasn't that nice? I try. Now a major delay to getting this implemented will be volunteers, right? We have several different teams that you can learn about in the forums that we share in the chat. And please take a look at those at your disposal. At the end of this conversation, we'll kind of walk through some of that a little more. 10-10 song, right? 10 out of 10. I'm a smart. Yeah, that definitely counts. But I do want to share the levels of volunteering tiering that we have in place. I love that. Yep. Yes. Hello. Oh man, Alan, we've been kind of corresponding back and forth all week. Alan is a beautiful soul. Glad to have them here with us. But I want to share the levels of volunteering that we have in place to be mindful of your time and to protect you from burnout. Because a lot of times that's some of the reason people do think about like, I don't want to volunteer, because you don't want to burn out. We've kind of put things in place to make sure that doesn't happen. And so you have different levels you can volunteer at. You can volunteer at the supporter level, which is 5 hours or less, the member level, which is 5 to 10 hours weekly, by the way. Promoter level, organizer level, and driver level.
It'll be nice to have this.
Right? But it doesn't. As long as we can get a good scattered few of people in each of those type of categories across our teams, we can do things. I know one of the things that I'm really pushing for is really building our homemakers team. And that sounds weird, but look in the guide, and I think I did share the guide in the chat earlier. By the way, here's my neurodivergent stuff going on. We're also streaming to Facebook today. Yay, burnout prone. I am too, because I'm hyper productive. And so I have to kind of like categorize and compartmentalize everything that I do to keep it from happening. And because I know I'll do it to myself, I know that other people will do it to themselves. Sometimes people have a hard time saying no. And so you want to make it easier for people. That's why every Sunday at the end, when we do our little spiel about financial support, we always try to make it easy for people to say, hey, if you can't afford to, don't do it. Right. And so that's our approach with volunteering as well. If you don't have the bandwidth, don't do this. But not only that, we've created levels so that, hey, if you're like, I can only give maybe 3 hours a week of my time, then, hey, we got room for you. And that's how community works, right? All right. Harmonize. All right. So let's jump into this conversation. We did a 23-minute introduction. Wow, that was long, but I'm not mad at it because it helped get some more of you in here. So I'm glad about that. It was absolutely for sure. All right. So today's conversation, we've been in this conversation series rather of when people are how to human. And we walked through this through a few ways: when people met people, when people lived with people, when people worked with people. And today we're going to move over into this aspect of when people value people. And so as an open question that I kind of want to put out and for all of us to kind of be thinking about is, what actually does it mean to value people? What does it mean to value people? And I want to call this the appreciation conversation. And I guess it's because of the work I do in the corporate world. I view the word appreciation very differently than some people do. People say they appreciate you all the time, or that's something that you've done, that they're appreciative for. Hey, what's up?
How you doing?
But I've begun to reevaluate appreciation around this idea of value. And so when I appreciate somebody, it's my way. It's my way of valuing that person. It means like I value you. I value. That is hilarious. I value you. I value, who you are. But not only do I value you, but I seek to engage with you in a way that adds value to you. That's one of the things that I think about when I think about appreciation, or at least that's how I approach appreciation in my life. But yeah, that's that first open question. Like, to you, what does it mean to value people?
And that's interesting because that made me
Yay.
go to or think about when we're born and as we being raised as toddlers and children, the first value that I kind of experienced is going into valuing your parents. I just had my mom
Mm-hmm.
for the most part, and so it's kind of ingrained in you. You know, you value your mom for providing you
Mm-hmm.
clothes. You value your mom for providing you food and things of that nature. But the move into appreciating, like, what are you bringing into that is also interesting when you're learning that as a child.
That's actually a really good dichotomy to bring up, because isn't that kind of like what the growth experience is like, what the maturity, like as far as from being a child to becoming, somewhat of a mature person. When you first enter this world, everything is very much one-sided. So things give to me, things provide for me, things pick me up, things push me,
Right.
things carry me.
And it's sort of an expectation there.
Yeah, oh, for sure. Yeah, like, hey, that's why babies cry. You not here yet? Why are you not here? Do you not hear me crying? Come get me. But eventually, most children, based off of their engagement with the world around them, they go from seeking just to be valued to finding ways to value. Because and I know, I think you and I have both shared this before. Like, okay, I'm gonna tell you a funny story about me. One, I used to live with my aunt and uncle at one point. They're actually my great aunt and uncle. Very, very valuable people to me. And my uncle was ex-military, retired military, and he used to keep these water jugs of change in his ex-military room. I don't know why. And I started going in there and taking all the silver change out, taking all the silver change out, quarters, dimes, nickels, half dollars, full dollars, all that stuff. So, and then I took it, and after a while, I had got enough of that together, maybe by the end of the week, to have enough money to go to the store, which there was a store right around the corner that I could walk to. And I walked to the store, got to the store, and was getting ready to buy me something. And then I thought about it, and I was like, "Oh, but my aunt and my uncle have been so nice to me, and they've been great." And so I said, "You know what? Instead of buying me something with the money that I stole from them, I'm going to buy my aunt something." And I did. I bought her it was cheap, of course, change, but it was one of those little birds that like tip on the nose or whatnot. And I bought it, and I came back home and gave it to her, and I said, "Hey, I bet this is what I bought for you." And she was so overwhelmed by that because it turned out to be her birthday, and I didn't even know. Oh man, get that nipple back over here, right? Oh my goodness. Yes. But the reason I did that is because while being at the store, I realized, like, no, like, I really value these people, and I value what they've done for me. And I was very young. I was probably like 8 or 9 at the time. But we often, end up, having that. But even though we do kind of naturally have those feelings, it's almost like we become resistant to defining it in times, and defining what it actually means to value other people. Is unformed, doesn't distinguish between their identity and other people are. I got to remove this. I'm gonna stop sharing for now. Yeah, pure extension of the child. Other people are an extension of child, for sure, for sure. It's almost like the child sees the mother or the father as the child's own arm, and it's like, and the arm is not getting over here quick enough. Yeah. Why is my arm not over here? Like, what is wrong with my arm? Yeah. So I definitely get that. Throughout this conversation, I hope we've seen how everything we cling to as human has been shaped by the way we interact with each other, and the value we've been able to pull out of those interactions. And of course, not just talking about like capitalistic value, but the emotional value, the social value, the psychological value. that we pull out of relationships with others. Like one of the biggest things that came out of this conversation, which has absolutely freaked my mind, is the way commerce and trade have shaped identity, which was a thought that I never had before. But almost everything we identify with as individuals is somehow a byproduct of commerce and trade. And that has changed. And, the definitions of that has changed vastly over the years, but it's definitely been fascinating. Even how we define value and what is valuable has evolved over the ages to a point where it's very difficult, where it's nearly difficult to identify any activity or event that doesn't have some type of value. Us versus them mentality, right? That we can latch onto and cherish for sure. Um, Perhaps I'm being a little flowery here, but I think one of the greatest skills of humanity has been our ability to find value in and add value to each other, even when it's been selfishly motivated,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Which, even like, man, even the way that a child loves a parent, it's sometimes selfishly motivated,
Mhm.
but means the absolute world to that parent.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Sure.
saying?
Yeah.
When your child hugs you because they're afraid, you know, it's somewhat selfishly motivated. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? But you understand it as, man, they trust me with their fear. They
Yeah.
trust me to protect them. And that's just such an overwhelming feeling. And it's something that kind of adds value to you, you know? Or easier way to send it, it definitely makes you feel
It's like
valuable as a
comfort.
parent. It's
I-
definitely comforting. That's good. That's good stuff. So let's jump into this a little more. Let's start by trying to define value, which is difficult, right? Because and I think that's the whole point of this how to human conversation is to really highlight the complexity of what it means to be human and to really highlight that I don't think one of us gets to define it for the rest of us, or any other of us. I think we learn it by engaging each other. We learn what it means to be human or how to human. And that's such a troubling phrase. I mean, isn't it? It's troubling to me. Like you say, what does it mean to be human? When will we ever really know?
Mm.
Our story is not really completely written yet. We don't know. Like we could probably do a better job of saying what it means to be dinosaurs than we could to say what it means to be human, because the dinosaur story is over. So we can look at it vaguely in its entirety and actually say, okay, from beginning to end, this is what it is. Our story as humans is still evolving. Right, yeah,
It's not static.
it's not static,
Yeah.
like, growing up in the context that I grew up in, my family definitely had a viewpoint that there is just a limited way to be a human. And these are often the things that create polarization. And so then it becomes like, hey, if you don't do this, you're not human. So like, and it's like as a black man, you know, you kind of go through this, and I don't know if black women went through this as much, but this was definitely conversations around black men. Is that there were things that if you didn't do, you're considered not black. Like your identity is attached to all of these
Yeah.
things. Man, I don't even know what
Well,
rabbit I was. Go ahead.
we didn't go through the hot comb phase.
Yeah, like what you doing? You're not perming your hair, you know. But you people you develop all of these different types of expectations around what it means to be appropriately human. And for me, it was very torturous those early years in life, because I always felt like something must be wrong with me because I don't human the way other people human.
So you're always questioning throughout life.
Yeah.
Am I human, or am I this, or am I that? When you kind of already.
Yeah. I'm human by default.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like people are human by default, but it's often things. It's our heartaches, our pains, the things that we've experienced that did not feel well. It's the trauma that we've experienced. It's criminalization, villainization, victimization. It's all of these things that play a role that make very much so tribalistic culture, very much so that, you know, we end up shaping these ideals based off of, in many ways, an attempt to try to preserve ourselves, right? So even though like I don't like much of the stuff that my family did when I was growing up, I also have the understanding of where those things come from. Now, that's not to excuse it because I don't like excuses, but understanding where those things come from helps me to appreciate how they may not have come to the conclusions that I've come to in my life yet. And just like I said about humanity as a whole, their story isn't over yet, you know, and I think that's, you know, we're going to move on, but I think that's a big thing. Like, we have to stop treating people like their story is already defined. Exactly. Like, your story is over. Like, I know exactly who you are, you know? It's difficult to find, but for me personally, I find value in asking people about their non-controversial interests, even if I'm not personally drawn by such things. That is really awesome. And that's a great way to create safe conversations that help to even generate value. Yeah. And so let's kind of hit intrinsic value versus extrinsic value. You know, so intrinsic value is valuing individuals for their inherent worth, dignity, and unique qualities. That one right there is so scary because, or at least it scares me. And I'll tell you why. Because this seems to be so hard for humans. Valuing individuals for their inherent worth, just for who they are, just for the purpose of human dignity, you know, or for the purpose of human sanctity. Intrinsic value. It's just, you didn't have to do anything. You know, this isn't a tick for tack. There's another word that I want to, gratis for gain type thing. But, you know, just valuing each other. And, you know, that's a major part of what we want to build community around. That's why one of our biggest principles and values is being people-centric. We're progressive thinking, we're life-affirming, but we are people-centric. Because you know, just me personally, everybody may not believe it, but I believe people are highly valuable. You know, quid pro quo. That is the exact one that I was looking for. Dang, you are a friend of my mind. And so, you know, and it's, you know, the example that I have here is appreciating someone's character, kindness, or resilience. And that's great. But I want to go a little deeper than that. And that is, even if I haven't seen your character, even if I haven't seen your kindness, even if I haven't seen your resilience, my stance, and I'm not necessarily saying it has to be yours, but my stance is you're still valuable. And I still want to, right? And I still want to value you. Intrinsic value is the inherent worth of someone, independent of their utility. And I guess being in a capitalist society, that's hard, you know?
Yeah.
That's hard. Because even I, you know, just being transparent, I basically measure my relationships by their utility. I think I have a video coming out about that this week. But that's measuring the relationships, not the values of the people. You know what I'm saying? And so then extrinsic value is just the other side of that. And that's valuing individuals based on their contributions or roles, which, you know what? Now that I think about it, that one's even hard too.
Yeah, I can see that. But you know what's interesting? When you're thinking about value of how people look at themselves, some people they feel valuable by what they do, but they may not always feel value. If I don't do this, separate from this, I'm not valuable.
I'm not valuable.
So you kind of deal with that issue as well.
And I guess that's kind of that dissonance between the intrinsic and the extrinsic, you know. Well, if I'm not doing, I'm not valuable. And I wonder, do we sometimes struggle with that is because that's what we've experienced with people. Yes. What we've experienced with others is that the moment you stop doing for me, or you stop doing a particular role, then you're no longer valuable to me. Which you know, I think that one of the tricky things is as our species has evolved, we've created the complexity for us of language to now replace things that were once instinct or intuition, you know. And so now that we've put language to that, we can now say, okay, I know I do this because I value you, but it's created such complexities because now it gives us the thing that it gives us the thought of, well, if you don't do this, should I continue valuing you?
Yeah.
And I mean that's probably the biggest challenge of being human is having these thoughts and trying to find a way to think through them in a way that is trustworthy, in a way that is reliable. And by far and large, we haven't been that good at that. And I say that as a species. I'm sure there are some exceptions out there, but by far and large, we hurt each other in ways that we don't mean to all the time. Like one of the things that I do try to share with people now is that hurt is not always intentional. Someone can hurt your feelings and that was not their intention at all. Like if you're outside and you're walking and you trip and you fall and your knee hurts, it does not mean the road was trying to hurt you. But many times we do kind of feel that way in life, and it makes all of these things very much complicated and nuanced.
In church, we used to have this thing like anytime something negative happens or anything happens, it's the devil working. He trying to get me. He trying to do this.
Yes.
And I think that contributes to that mentality, like of value as well.
Absolutely.
Because if you're going through a number of things, you may think, well, why am I here? What is my purpose? What is my value?
Well, yeah, I mean, if you relegated other people to the place of no free will, so someone does something and you say, oh, you're doing this because the devil is controlling you. You've taken that person's free will. Right. You know what I'm saying? And at that moment, you're not valuing that person. You're not valuing that person's decisions. You're not even willing to see that, hey, this person might be doing this for a reason that has absolutely nothing to do with the devil or God or anything else for that matter. But that's good. That's good stuff. Let's kind of talk through the evolution of value. The concept of value has shifted through time, influenced by cultural, economic, and social changes. And I think that's something we've done a really good job of highlighting in these conversations. Where when God puts you through dire straits that you probably were asking for it by your back. Yes. Wow. I definitely did used to hear that a lot. I hated it. So we've talked about throughout this series, throughout this conversation, how ancient societies to modern societies how our roles and our identities have changed. And that is ultimately impact how we value each other. While in ancient societies where, roles, people's value may have been based on social roles, as we have evolved, we've gotten a more broader understanding, or we've given ourselves a more broader understanding of value, encompassing more diverse roles and personal attributes. Like I wonder who 300 years ago would have been able to say that content creators in the way that we have them today would have been something of value. Hell, 50 years ago, people would have been like, nah, ain't nobody got time for that.
But at one point, people who wanted to be musicians, they looked at singers like, you want to go out and sing, and you need to be done.
This isn't valuable. And so all of these things that have worked to shape how, not just how we value each other, but how we value ourselves, because, and that's the weird thing about value. I think I might geek out or nerd out a little bit, because it's like the more value we begin to see, it's like the more value we're capable of seeing. It's very interesting to me, or at least that's how it seemed to have worked on this scattered timeline of human development, is that the more value we see, the more value we're capable of seeing. We it's like a never-ending roll of value from each other. So it's like, think about it from this way. You're not, the parent is not just valuable because you're giving me food. You're not just valuable because of surviving. Or not the correct type of value, but the way rock was demonized and then rap. Absolutely, that's good stuff. That is an excellent point. That was so excellent. It made me forget mine. I don't know where I was going.
It'll come back to you.
It'll come back for sure. For sure. But yeah, it's just amazing that value has changed. But that was such a great point, because there were people who said, "Oh no, rock has no value. This is not good." But there were people who said that about jazz. Jazz has no value. This is not good. Rap has no value. This is not good. And then when you really get into things, here's the complexity. It may not have a perceivable value to you, but you are not the prototype of value reception.
Yeah.
Is the bridge, not the endpoints. Value means ego investment. I think you'd have a hard time finding any dictionary that defines value as ego investment. I don't know if I could align with that one. I could see how some people would think that. But I would think that you'd have to be overlooking a lot of things to get to that conclusion there. But yeah, but now we have so many different ways to value each other. So that's what it was. The parent starts by feeding. You value your parents because they're feeding you. It's survival. You're helping me live. But then at some point you begin to think that, oh man, this is another human being who's doing right. This is another human being who's actually caring for me. And so you begin to see value beyond the value that you were able to see before. So the first value you saw was, I saw that you're feeding me. But then you begin to see, I value the fact that you're taking the time out to feed me. And then you may even see, man, I value the fact that you even want to feed me, and so there just becomes levels to it.
And that's a good point out, because I think everything has levels.
For sure.
And and every point that is being made is part of the level.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things that I really do enjoy or have enjoyed about the evolution of the human species is that today individuals are valued for their creativity, their innovation, their empathy, and ability to contribute to social progress in various fields, whether it's technology, whether it's arts, whether it's education, whether it's social services. This is how broad we've been able to expand what valuing people means. This is why we have what's a big word now is allies, where you have people who may not experience what you're experiencing, who may not have lived through what you have lived through, but they value you in such a way. What's up, homie? They value in such a way that says, no, this is another human being. I'm going to stand up for their rights. So you have people who protest. You have people who lobby. You have people who say, I'm going to get people together to create social services for other people to make sure that everybody has a fair chance in this society. Those type of things only happen when we value each other, Oh man, thank you. I appreciate it. And shameless plug, we'll be jumping into the Atheist Experience today. I'll be on there. I won't get much downtime between this show and that show, but I'm excited. It's a busy Father's Day. My kids are probably happy not to have to be driven all over the place today, so they get kind of a break. But yeah, how do we value each other, and what does it mean? And I think probably the biggest thing of this whole conversation is it's not predictable. You cannot necessarily predict what is going to be valuable to somebody else.
Right. And is it all right to control that? Some people get upset about how things are done or how someone is valued.
Yes, sir. Thank you, bro. Appreciate that. Yeah.
But is it right for someone, for instance, gift giving,
yes, I was thinking about that too. Yes.
It's like, some people think if I give you a gift, it should be valued no matter what it is, if it aligns with you. And then you have others who say, no, this gift, this wasn't for me. This may have been for somebody else. You don't value me just because you bought the gift. So even there, you can attach it to like everything we do in life, our daily lives.
Yep. And I think I'll go back to something that Alan said, because in this way, maybe this is heathen. Sorry to get that out. Maybe this is an intentional investment in someone else's ego. Maybe that really is what value is. So Alan, I'll come back on that one. Maybe that's what it is. It's an intentional investment in someone else's ego. It's nurturing that thing, letting them know that hey, you are valuable. And I'm glad you mentioned the gift giving thing, because that was a big thing for me. For years in my life, people gave me gifts that I did not want. I had never asked for. There are things that did not align with me. And at some point when I became an adult, I really started to think about that and realize, and again, these are some of the reasons why I am vehemently anti-superstition beyond just religious things, because there were these superstitious ideals that, like, no, all little black boys want this, and I often highlight superstition. It's just a shortcut to thinking, that or at least that's what enables superstition, is these shortcuts to thinking. And so instead of people really investing, at least for the majority of my life, in what I actually wanted, they used whatever media was saying that little boys wanted. And that's how they determined what they'd give me. That was very difficult for me because I wasn't that type of person, So I can remember being heartbroken one time, and this is going to make me sound petty. Yes, Sarah in the corner asked, "Where's my candy bar?" Right? This is going to make me sound petty, but this is me for real. Like, and I was heartbroken when I was a pastor. And it may have been Father's Day. My church had gotten together and decided to get me a gift for Father's Day. And the gift that they got me were some Jordans. And I was heartbroken because I have never, ever been into sneakers. I am not a sneakerhead. I am, like, at all, not in the least bit. And so here's something that people don't think about in moments like that. Even though I had to smile and be like, oh man, this is great, this gift was completely ignoring who I was as a person and as an individual, and so, yeah, I know that, but I was actually heartbroken. Now, I didn't make them feel weird about it. I didn't tell them, oh, you should have got me a better gift. But I'm a type of dude that, like, you could buy me a journal and I would have been extremely happy. Buy me stuff that I can use. But I didn't begin to realize that we've become so used to having these shortcuts with how we interact with other people that we don't place intentional value on them to be able to say. And it's also because, hold up, here's another part. It's because media has romanticized so many things, right? So that, it's this idea of surprising somebody. We get this, everybody wants to be surprised. Hey, here's a fun fact. I don't. I don't like surprises.
And that's what
all.
You used to always say, that you don't like surprises.
I do not like surprises. Please run it by me first. And the main reason is because I am really good at my job. I'm a project manager. I'm an event manager. I am an organizational development leader. I am really good at what I do. And so if you want to do something that's going to impact my life, please let me have some say-so in it so I can make sure it's organized properly. And
what's cool, and this may lead into economic contributions to how we view value. Even if you're given something that you have people who, they gave me this, I really won't use this, I don't want this, and they will make value out of it. They'll say, okay, let me sell it to someone else. Let me give it as a gift to somebody else, and so you see that transaction where this person, I'm gonna give you something of value, and this person said, well, it's not valuable to me, but I can make value of it.
Which almost, it makes me want to say, whose value is it anyway, right? Like, who gets to define the value? Like, especially when it comes to gift givers, Is it the person giving the gift that defines the value, or is it the person receiving the gift finding the value? Bruh, friend of my mind, Alan, because that's literally what I said. They got a gift for themselves and gave it to you. They didn't get a gift for you that considered exactly. And I think that happens a lot. And I know for the first 2 decades of my life, I was socialized to say, well, this is normal. This is just what people do. And so I was used to being disappointed in gifts. But then I realized that, hey, not communicating how you feel about things that impact your life is not healthy. So just smiling and taking it for their benefit completely undermines the purpose here. And if their intention was to do something that actually helped you, you're actually robbing them of an opportunity to know that this isn't something you want. Oh, I love it. I love it. I've been I've given a Bible as a, you're like, thank you. Thanks. Oh, and you engraved my name in it. Wow. Paid extra $15 for that. That's
some people may go to the bookstore, the Bible store, what's the Christian bookstore, and give you the highlighters and the tags.
Oh, yeah.
Book covers.
This is going to change your life forever. And it may, I think the Bible has changed a lot of lives. That is hilarious. Oh my goodness. Oh man, I can't. But what I would suggest with gift giving, unless it's a gag gift, because gag gifts are always fun. Actually, I had a friend one time who bought me a gift that I thought was incredibly mindful. And this was when I had started pastoring Kingdom Central. And this was a friend who understood that he was a white friend, and he went to a very white church, and my church was mixed at the time, but Black pastors tend to still attract majority Black folk. But he wrote me a book, not wrote me a book, but he gave me a gift on my birthday that is hilarious. Man, Joel, you got the good gift. Joel, sorry. But dang it, I forgot again. What was I saying? You don't remember either.
Gave you a gift.
Gave me a gift. And I can't remember the name of the book, but I did keep it for a very long time. And it's probably somewhere in my stuff. But it was like what Black folks should know about white folks. It was something like that. It was a hilarious type of gag gift, but it was also his way of understanding that we didn't have as much insight into each other's worldview as we thought we did, based off of several conversations we had with each other. And so that was a gift. And I thought that was an incredibly mindful gift.
And that's one thing my mom always been good at. And she tried to teach me that when she gives gifts, she always asks ahead of time, like, what do you need?
Mm-hmm.
What do you want? Okay. And then out of those, she assesses what she can get.
Yep. And so just kind of continuing this conversation with value, I'm going to speed through a little bit so we can hit some other points. But economic contributions play a role in how we value each other, especially in capitalistic structures. Shema, can give me fat. Yes. And that. Okay, so now I got to go back. And that's what I meant. Like I was socialized to the normalcy of this because that's how normal it is. And a part of that normalcy comes from media. And I'm not trying to paint media as a big bad here. I'm not necessarily that person. I don't have big bads. I really don't have any villains. They're just people out here doing what they think they should be doing, whether it's right or wrong, Damn, I forgot my point again.
That tipped you off with the gift.
Oh yeah. Normalizing it. Yeah. So it becomes, because of media, whether it's commercials, whether it's the books we read, whether it's the television shows we watch or the movies we watch, there's always someone who surprises somebody with something that they've always wanted. But the person who's watching is not taking, or is taking for granted the fact that the narrator told us what this person already wanted. That's why it worked out this way, and the writers wrote it this way. But for most people to really find out what they want, you should ask them. And that goes deeper than gift giving, though. Can y'all think of how many ways we often take for granted good morning, good afternoon, good evening? Can y'all honestly think about, right? Yeah, yeah. I gotta find it. I've definitely gotta find it. Um, dang it. No, okay, yeah. Now I want you to think about all the different ways that we may unintentionally devalue others when trying to value them.
Mm, yeah.
You know, I know in my work, anytime I take over a different team, anytime I get new team members or I have to take over a team, I always do a meeting with everybody and ask them how they like to be rewarded or praised. I started doing this because I realized everybody doesn't like to be celebrated.
Mhm.
Everybody doesn't like to be highlighted. Everybody doesn't like to be called out. This was my way of being intentional about respecting other people's experience. So when I want to praise you for something that you've done well, I don't want that praise to be offensive to you. I don't want it to be uncomfortable for you. So I'd ask them, how do you like praise? And I'd also ask them, how do you like critique as well? Are you comfortable with critique in front of everybody? Or do you prefer your critique to be behind doors? Let me know in advance and I'll take note. But in the same way, if you do something well, taste can be, yes, it's sweet that you remembered something I mentioned half a year ago, but I lost interest. Yes, for sure. Like, Ma, I don't play Roblox anymore, you know? But and I think I personally think, and I know for some people this just sounds like too much work. I think that's how we invest in relationships.
Yeah.
It's not taking anything for granted. It's like, you know what? Oh, I remember 10 years ago you liked red velvet cake.
Yeah.
Let me see if you still like red velvet cake. You know what I'm saying? Before I go buy you a red velvet cake. And that also, it's because these are ways that, not only religion, and then this is why, I'm not trying to say religion, isn't bad, but actually I am. I don't believe religion is bad. I believe people are bad. I don't believe politics are bad. I believe people can be bad. But I'm not necessarily trying to protect religion, but you do see that it's not just religion that has led to our superstitions. I often remind people that religions didn't give us superstitions. We gave our superstitions to our religions. To believe anything otherwise is to believe that your religion did come from a divine source. As me, I don't believe religion came from a divine source unless we're calling humans divine, and I guess I can rock with that for to an extent, to an extent. Oh man, okay, I'm rabbit trailing now. Let's get back on this. I'm rabbit trailing, but we've moved on from, and I think this has been a constant in this conversation, that it's not just economic value that we pull from each other. And that may have been where things started, economics on the base level, even with survival, because survival is economics. And so even when we, in the very early stages of our development as a species, when we're building houses and when we're doing agriculture and we're having hunter-gatherer societies and all these things, us valuing each other may have been economic, which means based off of survival, but it's moved beyond that to social and cultural, like even to the point now, happy Father's Day, yeah, even to the point now that there may be cultures that we completely disagree with, and we can still find ways to value those cultures. I see it happen oftentimes. Um, yeah, we, as an artist myself, I love the value that we have been able to afford to people who are artists and creatives. And again, I'm not just talking about economic value here. But imagine, like, because this was a common story in like the 50s, 60s, and 70s, that there were people who well, hell, even the 20s, 30s, and 40s, but there were people who wanted to use their art to inspire other people, and use their art to
Console.
to lift up the world, to elevate the world. And there were people telling them that, no, you can't do that. You got to go to a factory. And maybe for some very tangible reasons that was the case at that time, because these things are heavily nuanced. But it is so beautiful that as we're progressing, people are finding ways to simply be themselves and be valued as themselves. And it's not just being themselves, it's that the rest of us can actually look at them being themselves and see value in it and be like, oh man, dang, we should have been doing this the whole time. I didn't know this was going to be as valuable as it is, but wow, it is. But so social things, cultural things, and then we're moving towards trying to be intentionally more diverse, more inclusive, and these things happen because we're recognizing the value in others. The concept of value has evolved from rigid role-based appreciation in ancient societies to a more inclusive and multifaceted recognition in modern times. This evolution reflects broader cultural, economic, and social changes that highlight the diverse contributions individuals make to society. By understanding this evolution, we can better appreciate the complexities of human value and the importance of recognizing contributions from all areas of life, which makes me want to go back to that statement that I made earlier. It's like the more value you see, the more value you are capable of seeing, which I hope that kind of cautions us moving forward, that we, kind of begin to learn from the lessons of the past to not be so quick to devalue others, to not be so quick to tell somebody else that what's important to them isn't valuable, or what somebody else wants to do isn't valuable. Now, I don't think there's going to be a cut and dry solution here, but I do think these are things that as people we can start working on, to build healthier relationships. Because at the end of the day, this is all about community. Okay, I'm gonna let you take this other section because I've been talking a lot.
Yeah, so I love where the conversation's been going so far. And so the human skill of valuing, jumping into that, one of the greatest skills of humanity has been our ability to find value in and add value to each other, even when it has been selfishly motivated. And we kind of touched on that earlier, that just because someone's motivation may not be where we think it should be at the time, there's still some exchange of value where you get value in something and that you may also add value to it. And we see that when we talk about education, where you have an example here. We value educators because we value education. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't always mean that the person who was educating you or your child or whoever was a good educator.
Absolutely.
Right? But as a whole, when you think about it, we value it because we want others to learn. We want others to grow and expand. And so there are instances where you value the overall thing, but each individual or points that are connected or involved may not be adding the best value.
Yeah.
And then I think it's still up to us to jump in and say, well, how can we fix that?
Yeah.
Right. What is the discrepancies here? Where is the disconnect for that person or people or that group and things? What do you think about it?
I 100% agree. I think one of the ways that one of the things that's really going to help with people valuing each other is keeping people in the loop of what that means, And so that means talking to each other. And I think years ago, you and I had a conversation about toxicity, and realizing that sometimes what makes people really toxic. Right. Yes. Yeah, I've definitely seen that. Definitely seen a lot of that, and especially on the not worth learning side. But one thing that we begin to realize about toxicity is that oftentimes people who become toxic in other people's lives are not trying to. They're not trying to be toxic.
And that's good. And some people actually think they're adding value. Like you have people on the street who just go and pray for people, and you don't even know that person's religious status or affiliations. But the person that's doing that evangelizing, or they think they're doing good, and it's like, but they haven't thought deeper on, is this actually adding value to this person?
Well, see, and that's what it is. It's I think I'm doing good to you without including you in on the conversation of what is good to you. Because I am taking for granted that what I define as good may not be what you define as good. And I think that probably is some of the damage that has stemmed from our religious superstitions, in this idea that there is only one way to be human.
Right.
I think that is something that comes from our religious superstitions, is that humans are made one way, and humans are to behave one way, and humans are to do certain things, and there it is, that there is a way, and that way is the one way.
And that's what prayer, because even in sports, there are a lot of teams, if not most, who will pray before the games or pray before they compete, whether it's individual or group. And I was an athlete, I was a dancer and performer, if you will, and we see that. And these are people who they could not have been going to church for a long time. They don't even pay church any mind, but they're going to include prayer. And then that's we do it before we eat or anything we do. And it almost feels like if we don't start or end with prayer, then are we valuing God in some way? Or are we valuing ourselves? Are we going to win without this prayer? But in those who don't pray, we see sometimes they still win.
Oh yeah, a lot of times.
So I think with societal values have shaped that innate reaction in some.
Absolutely. And I definitely wanted to address this, because this is something that I've talked about in a recent video. I don't know if it's already premiered yet, but it's the Christian propaganda one. But this is, because man, you're absolutely right that a lot of missions are typically militaristic, and very much so. Almost the word evangelism has a militaristic history. And it is, in a sense, to use terms that we would recognize, a lot of missionaries act like colonizers, just to use a term that we could recognize. But you'd have a hard time separating the Great Commission from colonization, because that's almost what it is, to go tell other people that they're doing it wrong and that they need to do it the way that you're doing it, which ties perfectly back into this point about how some of this does stem from religious superstition. Christian teachers are sometimes harmful. That is very true. That is very true. Which again kind of, it highlights that complexity that I don't think there's ever a moment in humanity where we can afford to take our hands off the wheel and stop inspecting what we expect. I think the whole, and especially for those of you who are building community, because advocating for humanity hit a great point. We have some great communities, communicators, and some great teachers who are sometimes harmful, depending on how valid the information is. And sometimes those things go way left field and last a lot longer than they should, because the people give up the responsibility of inspecting what they should be expecting.
That's good.
Wow. Yep. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, that's true. Speaking of that reminds me of Shogun, which was I hope season 2 is coming out soon, but that was really good. We need to be taught how to properly communicate and ask lots of questions to ensure we understand. Some people just make assumptions based on narratives. Absolutely. Even when I was a pastor, I used to hate that people introduced me as a pastor. Like, please don't introduce me to anybody as a pastor, because the moment someone hears pastor, they think, oh, this guy doesn't cuss. And I'm like, you don't know if I'm the type of pastor who cusses or don't cuss. But in the moment you hear me cuss, because you have these presuppositions about what type of pastor I was, you're like, oh, you're not no real pastor, and there's those no true Scotsmen. But that's what we do. That's what it is. It's no true human.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't that what we do to each other?
Yeah.
No true human would feel this way. No true human would behave this way. No true human would act this way. One-way ticket to hellfire.
And I think talking about getting into social cohesion, that really ties into kind of this point here. When people feel valued, they are more likely to contribute positively to their communities, which creates a cycle of mutual support and respect. And I think we can do better at that. So if people are really feeling valued, then they are more likely to contribute in the
that like that just kind of blew my mind a little bit. And I put these in the notes and did not have the thought that I just had now. And because immediately when I thought about that, I thought about broken communities. Yeah. I thought about broken communities. And typically it's really easy to stand on the outside looking in and just say, oh, these people don't want to do anything. And it's just like, at the end of the day, it's a value issue. When people don't feel valued, I mean, think about being in a marriage.
Yeah.
Think about being in a marriage where you don't feel valued in that marriage. How likely is it that you're going to want to positively contribute to the success of that marriage? You know?
You're not going to do anything. Like, oh, I stop.
Yeah, I stop. Gaudy. But no, I think that's such a good thing. Such a great point, man.
Yeah, and so
Gave money to people in exchange for converting. Yep, a blatant bribe, and they targeted poor areas. My father-in-law came for money, so he never gave up being a Hindu. Oh, that's beautiful. And you're so right, because Christian missionaries do the same thing. And this is one of the things. And I'm not just talking about the ones that go overseas. And I said Christian missionaries as if that's not who we're talking about. But I mean, the ones over here do that when they come into the communities that are filled with people who look like me, and those communities are broken. It is always, we will feed you if you'll get saved, and we'll give you these things if you get saved.
Which we've seen that years ago in the past, even with some of the organizations who
some of the organizations that I've even worked for. Wow. For that reason, that's insane. You know, every single minute gave. Yep, it right. You know what I understood about them, to make sure I understood what they were saying, because that's how communication works.
Why do you heard what I said?
But then you begin to realize how unnormal it is to, that's not a word, but it is now. How not normal it is to communicate properly. And so we have to train each other like all over again, you know?
And that's that personal growth we need to focus on. Individual development as well as group
development. And this goes social cohesion is the glue that holds society together. Anytime, and like we're experiencing in this country, and it's not just this country, I'm sure other countries are experiencing social disarray as well. But it can almost always be traced back, and I did say almost, but almost always be traced back to a value issue. You know, what I find very interesting about the conversations in this country is that it's supposed to be a democracy, which means for the people, you know, of the people, by the people, all that good stuff, majority rule. But it's not majority rule.
Right.
It's side rule. It's which side gets to control it for this amount of time. Yeah. That is incredibly polarizing.
We used to call it what, gang bang?
Oh yeah. No, I definitely call American politics gang bang presidency, where everybody can get a turn. Anybody can jump on this. You know, damn, what song was it? Let me ride that, don't care, don't care. Let me ride that, don't care, don't care. Let me ride that, don't care, don't care. It was an old song. Please, hey, please. You remember the song?
Yeah, I remember.
I was about to say, well, you know, the Democrats are donkeys, so it fits. It's politically accurate. Oh, we need this more. Oh man, all the reasons that is funny, hilarious. How is it being an atheist in Alabama? You know, as long as I stay home, it's okay. Me and the family went to Shoney's yesterday, and we you know, my kids are free thinkers, non-believers, skeptics, and all that stuff, and they all have somewhat deep voices like mine that carry. And so it's only a little awkward when we're out in public because we do not censor our conversations. And so we get some stares sometimes. Man, oh, I love this. Okay, so let's kind of start bringing this in a little bit. We talked about value addition, even when selfishly motivated, which I and I guess maybe because some of the books I've read, I I I don't know if there's anything we do that's not truly selfishly motivated. I'm like, and that's funny. That is funny. Wow. Oh man, that's hilarious. But I did just find out recently. Jim Barrows, who's a regular on the Atheist Experience, is also in Alabama.
Oh, really?
And he may be close to us, so that's going to be interesting. Let's see here. Reciprocity, recognition, and enhancements, because those are other ways that reciprocity is probably one of the easiest ways that we value each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's probably something that we learn as children. That goes back to what we were talking about earlier, is that eventually from, getting this value from our parents, at some point we decide that we want to reciprocate.
Yeah.
We want to
reciprocate.
How
big is that? Mother's Day, I used to make flowers out of construction paper, and I used to decorate my mom's room, and I felt like it was my obligation to do so.
Yep, to reciprocate. Yeah. That's funny, and it's probably something that she never obliged you to do.
No.
You felt an internal obligation, which that feels like an entire conversation itself. Like, that's beautiful. But then we move from reciprocation to recognition. So it's like I'm not even just reciprocating, but I'm recognizing and possibly even enhancing. And ways that we do that is by providing support and opportunities for others, which leads to stronger, more resilient communities. Because support systems are essential for growth and resilience in communities. I think being a product of the crack epidemic, one thing that I saw in many of my communities was a major lack of support. But it was, we took a very biblical approach to people who had been impacted by crack and treated them like lepers.
Yeah. Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. We treated them like they were unclean. Selfishness devalues one self. Oh, so don't put that back up. I got to read that again. I think I read it wrong. Selflessness devalues oneself. I cannot argue with that math. That seems logically sound to me. Oh, snap. Oh man, I love these conversations. I really do love the diversity of people and ideas that we have in here. This, like, y'all, and I can't wait till we're able to have some of these conversations in live and live on-site type of setup, simulcast it, so we can include more and more people. This is just exciting. All right, and then beyond social needs. Beyond social needs, here's other areas that value plays a big role, and that's emotional support, psychological impact, what some may call spiritual growth. I still struggle with this word because, I don't struggle with it. I struggle using it. Most people know, if you watch my channel, I don't define spiritual by anything supernatural. I know that there are people who do, and I don't want to take that from them. You stay on that journey. But for me, when I definitely talk about spiritual, I'm typically talking about social and psychological experiences that we tend to have, while not holding my definition over anybody else's head. Expected to follow without question, and there was always shock when they slipped up. Yes, right. Oh my goodness. And just to close up here, because man, here's some ways that people add value to each other. Comfort, which I think you kind of mentioned earlier. Providing solace during difficult times. Listening to a friend's problem. That's a funny way to add value to somebody. Just listening. Have you ever been in an argument with somebody and was just like, can you please just listen? When you see stuff like that, that really shows you the value of listening. It's like being born. It really is. It really is. It's like having to equals ego growth. You know what? That might be, man. Man.
That may be another conversation because ego doesn't. I can see how maybe in a sense we all should have an ego, like to boost yourself up in the sense, or if you love yourself, you add skills to yourself.
Yep.
You think about yourself first, so that way you are instilled with the knowledge and skills to think of others.
Yeah, it's like the airplane thing, like, hey, you're going to need oxygen before you can help anybody else get some oxygen.
Yeah.
Let's do that. But I love that, and I think, but I think that was a good thing to hit, because that may have been why I had that initial reaction to Alan's comment when he first mentioned that value as an investment in the ego, and I was like, oh no, not ego. But then, of course, being able to come back around, I was like, well, no, that actually is, it's an intentional investment in the ego. So I love that. That's a great call out. Support. We can support each other, offering practical help and encouragement. Practical help, practical help and encouragement. People going through struggles as the problem instead of the reason the problem is affected. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Which and I think politics in this country has definitely helped to stoke those fires, and it's always these people are your problem. And it's like, I'm gonna be very honest with you, and this is just because of the people that I looked up to and the people that I read about. Nobody else is my problem. That's where I live. Not because they're not problematic, but it's just because I'm not going to let you be my problem. So, for example, even racism. About 10 years ago, I decided racism is not my problem. Those are racist problems. Racism is a sickness that a racist has. I don't have that problem. Man, this is good stuff. I'm a rolling dumpster fire. Yeah, I'm like, I'm not going to fix your racism. You need to fix that shit. You know what I'm saying? But I will make sure that I navigate my life in a way to make sure that your racism isn't an impediment against my life. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't want to go there. I don't know how I even got there. Keep us at each. Yes. And it's like, man, we need real conversations. And I think that's why How to Human and having this conversation is so important.
Well, I like how you've been using the phrase in good faith. We need, because when we talk real or unreal, people may conceive it one way.
That is crazy.
We need to have conversations in good faith, because there's lots of conversations going on, but it's not always in good faith.
We love you. Thank you for being here today. Absolutely. I may be lurking in Discord tonight myself.
I'm saying, I think that should be the phrase.
Absolutely. I love it. I love it. Man, this has been great. Cooperation and inspiration is other areas. Dang, we had a lot of notes today.
Yeah.
All right. So let me run through these real quick. The impact of valuing people, individual impact. It's going to help people's self-esteem and confidence. And I can tell you, as someone who comes from a broken community, it's very needed. People need to feel like people need to be able to value themselves. I think it would be considerate for all of us to help other people learn how to value themselves, to help other people learn how to see the beauty in themselves, the wonder in themselves, the awe in themselves, and the capacity in themselves. Oh man, much love, Alan. Wow.
So appreciate it.
Very much so. Community impact, we get stronger communities. Oh, we did make it to the end of the notes. Okay. So as we continue our journey in understanding human interactions, recognizing and valuing the existence and contributions of others is important. And please make sure to join us next week for next week's conversation, which we'll be talking about when people are people. Yep. That's I can't help but to say I hope so. Or at least this iteration of it. But let's make a conscious effort to add value to the lives of those around us. And now let's go ahead and close this thing out. Do you want to do which part you want to take, babe?
Yeah, I'll jump right in. Thank you again so much for watching today and tuning in. Be sure to like, comment, continue to comment. Come back after the live and comment and just leave your overall thoughts so that others can see it right away as well. Thanks again, Alan. We appreciate you. We are all siblings in humanity, so let's spread the love that way. If you are a father, again, happy Father's Day. If you are wanting to participate in Juneteenth activities, I hope you find some in your local area or just read about it. It doesn't have to be about festivities. Choose that day to learn a little more about what's going on there. Share this with everybody that you can. We definitely appreciate it. And again, as my husband said earlier, we appreciate your financial support. If you can give, we definitely appreciate it. If you can't, no worries. We appreciate you tuning in, supporting.
Because that's valuable.
It is valuable all the way.
We have to be able to look at each other beyond economic standards. That's what the evolution of humanity is for, at least in my opinion. And so I don't want anybody feeling like, oh, I can't financially support, so I'm not a value here. No, you are a value here. Just being in the audience, being a part of the conversation, contributing your thoughts in this conversation, being a part of this community. And then, hey, there are other ways to add value as well. You can also volunteer. And I didn't mean to interrupt you there, babe. I'm sorry.
No, you're good, which we definitely need. But just your support overall just helps us improve the quality and quantity of channel content. You see my husband be on it all week, every day. Okay.
For sure.
Develop support resources. We have plenty of resources in our stack already. Y'all, we used to do work from home, virtual events, and get expertise from a recruiter's perspective and how to get your resumes together to stand out, things of that nature. So we already have a bunch of resources, but to top on that, we will use financial support and your general support for that, and to accelerate networks, community development globally, develop projects and programs that support people-centric solutions.
That's good. And that's basically what we're in this for. And of course, as you're learning a little bit more about our vision and about us, we're comfortable enough to extend an invitation in these sessions for you to join us in the work in whatever way that makes sense for you. And typically, and I will do this. I wasn't going to, oh no, I didn't mean to do that. Did I disappear and come back? I'll share my screen here. I had planned on doing this, and then I was like, I don't know if I'm going to do this. But I'm just going to, those are my notes. But I'm going to share my screens here. We have these forms that you can fill out if you're interested in being a part of what we're doing. The how can I help? Is that the right one? How can I help? Sign me up. I feel like this is the wrong form. Oh, yeah. This is right. I was confusing myself for a minute. Yeah. This is the how can I help? An unaltered call. I love that. We might, you know what? Don't tempt me. But if you're interested in getting actively involved in BridgeCity Global, which is what we're doing with Sunday sessions, it's our online progressive thinking, people-centric, and life-affirming community in partnership with our senior community organizers, myself and my wife. Excuse me. You can fill out this form to let us know what you're interested in. And you'll see here, this has all of the teams that we've imagined that we could possibly need. To therefore give you a diverse way to get involved. So whatever makes sense for you. And then we also have the supporter levels that we've mentioned. I have to add driver to this one. Actually, yeah, I got to add driver to this one. But so you can pick how often you would like to volunteer. And then, of course, have you decided to accept the invitation, which I guess this one would be our unaltered call, and this one is like, what are you wanting to do? Do you want to help us build this online community, which is BridgeCity Global? Or do you want to help build a local community where you are? Do you want to kind of take that step? Do you want to just learn more about building community? I'm not joining anything. I want to learn some things and we'll see where we go from there. Or just learn more about personal growth, connect with this community, all of the above. And for those of you who are in the Wiregrass area, which is where we are, you can check local campus or online campus, and then tell us where you're joining us from. And then, of course, do you want to build the bridge? Now, some of these may seem redundant, but they do capture different information. This one is if you're wanting to build a secular community wherever you are. And that's whether you're wanting to lead it or to play a role in helping it get started. You can let us know whether you're wanting to be a part of the Catalyst team, core teams, or the committed teams. And in the same way, we have these volunteer levels that you'll let us know. And as I've said before, when it comes to this one, oh, that's cool. I forgot it does that twice. When it comes to this one for the core teams, if you're not signing up for Catalyst teams, then we're going to be depending on you to help us find somebody who is in your area so that we can get those started. But we definitely want to just kind of go on back to this map. Everywhere we have these little blue pins, everywhere we have people that are supporting the vision and the work, we want to make sure that we're intentionally trying to empower and enable people to build communities in those areas. And then this last little bitty form is how may we help you? Now, this form is a no strings attached form. This is literally what do you want, need from community, more, less, etc. This is a any man's game form. Whatever you want to share with us, you can use this form to get that information to us. And I'm also showing you all of these forms because to really drive home the big point of why we need volunteers is so that we can get all of this stuff done and make sure that we're making it easier for people to connect with community, find community, and cultivate community. But I think that's all I have for now. Am I overlooking anything, babe?
No, I think you highlighted everything.
Awesome. Other than that, I will not be in the Discord right after this today because I have to get ready for the Atheist Experience shortly after this, and I
jump in, but I'll be getting lunch. So
yeah. And so, but you all are. It's not our community. It's our community. So you all are more than welcome to jump into the post session hangout. Even when we're not there. Because that's how we build community. We may be doing some organizing aspects, but I much prefer that we all be community drivers in that sense. But we love you all. Thank you all so much for hanging out with us today. If you haven't already, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and do all of those other things. I think we've hit enough. Until next time, keep rising, be the bridge, stay progressive, stay beautiful, and all that jazz. Thank you all so much. We love y'all. Have a wonderful day.